Hello everybody, Haku here with my review for Boku no Hero Academia Season 3, Episode 3, and sorry I am super late in the day with this one. I've had a real struggle recording today, so it's taken me a few hours. I'm way behind. So yeah, either way, let's talk about Episode 3. They keep knocking it out of the park every week, because there was so much detail that if I went into the detail of every single scene, it would take me all day to talk about this, but I have a lot of notes, so we'll do what I can while keeping the video a decent time. But they keep doing this thing where I thought going into last week's episode, I was like, okay, me having read the manga, they'll get through this much. And then they went through twice as much in that episode, and the same thing happened this week, where I was like, yeah, they'll get through this much. They'll end the scene with all the villains standing up at the cliff overlooking the camp at night. And that's what I was thinking, and don't worry, I'm not going into any spoilers or anything. I'm not going past what we saw in the episode or anything. But yeah, I was like, okay, that's where they'll probably end this episode at. That seems like a good place to end an episode. That scene happened. I looked at the time, we were like 12 minutes in, so I was like, okay, never mind. We're doing twice as much as I thought we were. So yeah, it's always nice to get twice as much as you expected, but none of it felt rushed. All of it felt really fleshed out. So maybe I'm just bad with time, or maybe I'm just used to shows like One Piece dragging things out. But either way, we start off the episode with Class B. I like that. I want to see more of Class B. Even if it's kind of fillerish, even if they're throwing in extra lines for Class B, I like Class B. Setsuna especially, she got lines again this episode, yes please. And basically they use Class B as a way to explain the quirk training and how it generally works through Vlad King or I think they're translating it as Vlad King for the anime. That basically, just like muscles, quirks work the same. The more you use them, the more you break them down, the more you can build them back up and they'll get stronger. So that's what the quirk training is going to be. We go through, and I'm not going to go through part by part and say what each character did for training, because if you're watching the review, you've watched the episode yourself, and you don't need me to just recap all of that. But I loved the way that all of it was really logical. All of it made sense for each character's power. Bakugo was the best. I thought he was funny the entire time, just being in the background yelling as he was training. And Ida as well, I guess, was in the background through a lot of the shots running around. I like the way they showed similarities in some of their powers too, like with Momo and Rikido both using their quirks while eating, because eating is kind of tied in with their quirk. And again, I like that a lot because I had just said last week's episode I wanted to see more of that with Momo, where I was like, logically, if Momo's quirk is based around fat cells, shouldn't she have to eat a lot, or shouldn't she get really emaciated if she uses it too much? So I like that they actually made logic with that, and she mentions later on in the episode when they're eating dinner, she's like, oh, I have to eat a lot because of the way my quirk is, because somebody had brought up to her, wow, Momo, you sure eat a lot. Probably Ashido, because that sounds like the kind of thing she would say. But yeah, I like the similarities there. I like that we actually saw the eating play into Momo's quirk. I love Koda, for some reason, went from me not caring at all last season about him to this season. I love, like last episode and this episode, I freaking love Koda. He is just, it's so adorable. His training was just yelling. Oh man, it was so cute. It was so funny. I like Koda a lot as a character now. Uraraka's training was really cool too. I like that she was, they put her in the ball for safety so that as she's trying to float herself around, she's just not knocking into stuff and like beating herself up. Then as the B class gets there and is commenting, what is this hell we're being subjected to? We get to see the full Pussycats. We know that the Wild Pussycats from last episode had 4 members, but we didn't see 2 of them, so we could assume they were doing the same thing with Class B that Mandalay and Pixie Bob were doing with Class A, but now we get to see all 4. And Tiger is such an awesome character. I'm happy to see him. Ragdoll is cool too, but Tiger, I don't want to say he's one of my favorite characters from the manga, but I guess he is up there a little bit. Tiger is a very fun character to me. And, oh crap, where was I at? Oh yeah, one cool thing about Tiger's character that I'm gonna go ahead and say isn't a spoiler because it wasn't in the actual manga. It was in these the mangaka does these character pages where they say trivia about the random characters and stuff. And there was actually a really cool bit of trivia about Tiger, where Horikoshi, the mangaka, said that Tiger is actually a female to male transgender character, and that he was born female. So I just think that's really cool because, again, it's not something you see often in anime, and if you do see it, it's just the generic anime trap kind of thing. So A, that's not something you see often in anime, and B, I just love series where you have a bunch of different types of characters. Like, you have a lot of characters that are unique, that don't really fit the same archetypes as a lot of others. And again, like I said, in anime, it's not often you see an actual transgender characters. That's really cool to me in its uniqueness. But they sort of explain what their quirks are and how they're helpful, except for Tiger, and how they're helpful for training. But Tiger just says basically he's handling the physical augmentation quirk training, which is why he's the one that's training Izuku. But I like the way they go around, like, Ragdoll says that her quirk is absolutely OP, that I think she said 100 people, she can tell what their weaknesses are and where they are at any time, so she can keep track of the students. Mandalay's a telepath, so she can communicate with them over distance. And Pixie Bob's just absolutely OP, and I guess she can provide training dummies with the golems from her quirk like we saw last time. So all of them explained how they were helpful. Bakugo again in the background yelling as they're giving their explanations and doing their pose and stuff was really funny. And Tiger and Izuku together I thought was hilarious. So that was all great. Ragdoll is adorable when they're finished and they're about to cook and stuff. The way she's just hyperactive all the time. So they have to make their own food. They hinted at that last episode, and they even brought up, hey, we hinted at it last episode, without breaking the fourth wall. I liked this for Todoroki more than anyone, I think, because we got to see him smiling, and no other character really acknowledged it or anything, but you could see that he was happy with himself, that he was able to use the fire that he didn't want to use at all before. He was able to use it in a positive, helpful way to cook, rather than to hurt anyone. So I really like that that was just a little good beat for characters, or for Todoroki's character. So that was all great. I liked, again, that was the scene where I believe it was Ashido brought up, wow, Momo, you eat a lot. And then they had the joke with Sero comparing her quirk to poop because she eats stuff and then turns what she eats into the object she produces. But either way, then what else was next? Sorry, I keep getting lost in my notes. It's just that I have a ton of notes this time. Izuku brings food to Koda out at his secret hideout. They translated, I remembered in the manga, I thought it was translated as the water horses were his parents' hero's name, but they translated as water hose, and I was like, it sounds kind of weird when you're saying, oh, your parents were the water hose. That just, to me, I got kind of a laugh as I was watching the scene, because I was like, that's unfortunate naming. So we actually get better reasoning for what Koda believes, and at first I didn't really like Koda much. Even having read the manga, I didn't like him much. I'm like, he reminds me too much of that stupid kid from Naruto, and it's really annoying. But I kind of understood a lot better here, where he was like, you know, you could just be, if you have to have quirks, you could be using them for whatever kind of good, but he's like, you're just killing each other and calling yourselves names like heroes and villains, and it's a very simplistic, childlike way to look at things, just breaking it down to its most simple and not really understanding the nuance between hero and villain, and just saying, you're just calling yourselves names, dressing up in suits and showing off, killing each other. To a child, that's kind of what it might look like. And that makes sense. Sometimes things are kind of simple when you break them down that way, and I think that maybe heroes could learn from that. So yeah, and I think Izuku's going to learn from that. So we have more flashbacks from Izuku when he's explaining his story but saying it's just a friend's story. And as he leaves, we see, as an audience, that there were cracks left in a rock that I assume is from Koda, whatever his quirk may be, Well, I mean, we can assume his quirk is to something to do with water because he mentioned both his parents had quirks that dealt with water. And the doctor earlier in the series said that you should either have one of your parents' quirks or a combination of the two. But since quirks showed up spontaneously to begin with, I would figure that sometimes you can just get a spontaneous one. So I would assume he has some kind of water quirk. And I would assume that that mark in the rock was just from Kota relieving his frustration and beating it up or something. So maybe he's actually pretty strong for a kid. Then we get to see the scene with the villains all up on the cliffside overlooking the camp at night. There are 7 of them gathered there. I absolutely love the designs. I'm going to not talk too much about them because it'll be hard to not spoil what their quirks or names might be, so I'm going to stick away from that. One thing I absolutely love, though, is Dobby being the I love the one, I won't say their name, they're hi! that was great as they walked out. But I like Dobby being the voice of reason and planning here. I don't know, it makes me like the character a lot more. The anime is making me like Dobby a lot more than the manga did. Like, everybody in the manga loves/loved Dobby, whatever works. I'm not going to spoil whether he stays in the story or whether he's out of the story, because I mean, either way that would be spoilery. But everyone loved him. But I just didn't really get him as much, I guess. But now with the anime, I'm liking the character a lot more. I thought he was kind of overhyped, to tell the truth, but now I'm liking him. And he mentions, that they're a small group of elites, and that, as an audience, tells us that this situation's way different from USJ. It's not just a repeat of the same thing, because USJ was like 3 talented people and then just a bunch of scrub lords. So that was all great. They're waiting for 3 more villains to get there, so there's 10 overall. Then they'll make their attack, or whatever their plan may be. Then the summer school Hell group stayed up until 2 a.m. and had to wake up at 7 for training the next day, so they're exhausted. Aoyama and Uraraka get chewed out too because they barely passed. Then Izuku asks Aizawa about if other teachers are coming, but he says no because the whole point of this place was to be out of the way where nobody's going to find us, and if we bring more teachers it's just going to be easier to find us, especially if we bring All Might, because All Might is such a huge symbol and has all the eyes on him. But the reason Izuku asked, of course, was that he wanted to know what All Might would do in this situation with Kota. But I like that All Might not being there means that Izuku's going to have to think of what to do on his own. Kind of on his own. Then we get told about the test of courage at night, and I just love that the Pixie Bob's laugh is just neko neko neko. That's great. Then dinner that night. I actually liked that Bakugo and Uraraka were hanging around each other at dinner that night. I like it a lot because I think those 2 characters are cool together. The positive and carefree Uraraka and the really loud, boisterous, and seemingly angry all the time Bakugo. I think that it's really cool to see them together, and it kind of adds development and weight into their earlier fight, showing that Bakugo respects her now and is kind of okay just hanging around her. So I actually really like that. Anything next? Todoroki gets asked by Izuku about what to do with Kota. I love that he says who, but Todoroki says that words need actions to give them any sort of weight or to build trust. Like, the you can be a hero coming from All Might only meant as much as it did because All Might had put in the actions that had Izuku believe in his words that much. So right now, Kota doesn't have any reason to believe in Izuku's words. Izuku needs to give Kota a reason to trust him and a reason to think that his words have meaning and he's not just some random stranger kid. So that was very good. And now to go over where everybody is, because that's going to be my main focus of this next part, because it's going to be important. They've just been attacked by villains we see at the end of the episode, so we kind of need to know where every character ends up. So the Summer School 5 end up with Aizawa. Class B is in the woods preparing to scare everyone, so we know where they are now, and we can assume Class B is pretty spread out and scattered in the woods, so we don't know what kind of groups they're in. We have 5 pairs that each left 3 minutes apart, so along that circular trail there's only going to be pairs of 2 students in pretty kind of far intervals, I would think. So we would have Tokiyami and Shoji the furthest along, then Bakugo and Todoroki behind them, Kyoka and Hagakure next, Momo and Aoyama after them, and then Uraraka and Tsuyu should be the least far along. And again, all that's important because we know that the woods are going to be filled with villains as well, and we need to know what characters might be near or far from others. Ragdoll also, I don't remember seeing her at the gathering there, so I'm not quite sure where she is at the moment, but she's somewhere too. She might be with Aizawa, but I would think maybe Vlad would be with Aizawa because I don't think we saw him either. So we'll see how things go there. So that's where all of them are, and that leaves Mandalay, Pixie Bob, Tiger, Izuku, Mineta, Ida, Shoji, and Koda, or not Shoji. I put Shoji there, but not him. Koda and Ojiro, that's who it was. Why did I write down Shoji? It should leave all of them together in one group. And then, of course, Kota left all on his own. There were a lot of funny bits in there, too, with all the characters. I like the Bakugo and Todoroki O-bit and Hononuki just getting a real kick out of that. Yeah, there were some other good comedy bits. And then poison gas comes, Hononuki is down, so we have at least one student down so far. And then I love the OST that hits. It's different from your normal OST in that I felt like the whole Screamo thing, even though it's not really my thing, it's more of a modern, newer kind of thing, and it fits Dabi in these younger villains a lot more than the old villain themes fit Shigaraki and some of the older villains. So I like that that was used as their OST. Dabi's flames look really, really cool. So we have Dabi out in the woods. He lit this fire. We have the guy in the gas mask out creating the poison gas. We see it coming from him. Toga is out in the woods, and I think she was near to where Asui and Uraraka were. Then anyone else? Oh, we saw the one guy in the gimp suit, is basically what I can call it. I don't know what else to call it. Is walking along the path, it would seem. So he's somewhere in there. Probably, I would assume, somewhere where the students haven't been yet, or they would have run into him. So he'll probably, which was the first group? He'll probably meet up with Tokiyami's pair first, if he is on the path it looked like he was, or maybe it's just some clearing. And then we have the guy that's dressed up like Stain, and the guy with the big lips and the pole thing wrapped in bandages, and they took down Pixie Bob. So we have it's a little bit difficult trying to describe everything that's going on while leaving out names and avoiding spoilers. It is a little bit difficult there, but I managed it. I just had to look kind of dumb in the process. So yeah, either way, that's where everyone is. We leave off with the one dude approaching Kota, or behind Kota, either way, and Izuku knows he's there. So yeah, I won't speculate on anything for the future because I would be afraid that might give anything away, and I don't like to spoil people. But either way, as an episode, like I said, I went for nearly 20 minutes here, and if I were to go into all the details of everything and why it was all important this episode, it would take me all day. And I was just trying to keep things brief and ended up this long. So yeah, I'd give it 9.75 because not only was it much more than I expected in a single episode and the pacing was amazing, but in addition to amazing pacing, I can't believe how much detail they were able to put into every scene. And of course the animation was great as always for this show. So yeah, 8.75 poison gases out of 10. I absolutely loved it. I thought it impressed me a lot in that there's a lot of storytelling in every little thing you see, and you don't really always recognize it right away, but a lot of the really small things are going to be important later. And that's one thing that impressed me with the manga and continues to impress me as I've watched the anime over a couple times, is that so many things that I didn't notice the first time around, I'll see them and I'll be like, oh man, that was important later. That makes sense for something that happens later. So yeah, there's just so much important in the episode. It was amazing. I'm going to go ahead and end this now. So if you did like the video, comment down there. Tell me what you thought of this episode, what you thought of my thoughts on it. Subscribe for more Boku no Hero Academia, both anime, manga, much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated there and stuff for the channel, or talk to you there. And if you want a link to our Discord server, just ask and I can give you one. We can all talk there. So that's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.